and you try to put two magnets together that have the same polarization, they repel. You can't get those magnets to attach. But when you flip one of those magnets, it's hard to get them apart, right? And the reason being is because of that magnetism, that polarity that's there. And when a man has needy energy, that's a very feminine energy, right? We all have needy energy, but when you're consistently like that, it's a feminine energy. And if your wife is naturally feminine, which she is, or you wouldn't be listening to the show, then you guys aren't going to have that polarity and you're going to repel her. Stop chasing your wife. What I mean by that is stop over pursuing her. If you are in a sexless marriage or you're in a situation where your wife seems closed down, she's not being as expressive with you, or maybe she's avoiding you altogether, what a lot of men do is they start chasing their wife. What I mean by that is they start really pursuing. They'll follow her around the house. They'll send her a ton of text messages, emails, phone calls, and just checking in to see how she's doing. Now, it's one thing just to check in with your wife like you would anybody you care about to see how they're doing, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is men who are in a marriage that isn't working well, men who are in a relationship where the woman just seems to be avoiding you. She's not in her feminine energy. And guys try to solve it, right? We try to fix this problem. And a lot of guys try to do so by being a nice guy and then also exhibiting very needy energy. Now, what I see often when I'm talking to men is they'll tell me about how they actually are pursuing their wife. They'll say, Doug, when I come home, I'm asking her how she's doing, and she just says, fine, and she walks away. She's avoiding me, right? But that's not really the case. She might be avoiding you, but what she's doing is avoiding the needy you, right? When you come in with this needy energy, this feeling, right, that you need to check in with her, you need to find out where she's at so you know, is she in a good mood? Is she in a bad mood? One woman, when I spoke to her, she described this as soon as her husband walked in the door, it felt like tentacles all around her. She could feel his needy energy. She could feel the fact that he needed some kind of assurance or some kind of reassurance that the relationship was good. And he would then act based on her mood. She didn't want that. What she told me directly, she said, I want a man. And what she meant by that, and her husband is a man, but she meant by that was, I want a guy who is so in tune with his own inner power. That's why we call it the powerful man. It's the inner power within inside of you, that he is not shaken by my mood. Now, she could be in a bad mood because the kids or her cycle or any number of things. But when the man reacts to her energy directly, he is no longer in control, right? Because external forces are causing him to change his mood and change the way that he acts, therefore, ergo, reacts to the situation. And she knows at a core level that if her mood can affect him that much, then how the heck is he going to protect her? Right? Not only protect her from physical pain or physical attacks, but also emotional things. She can no longer be wild and free, that flowy feminine energy, because he can't handle it. That's what he's sending to her. And guys do this all the time. They'll follow their wives around the house. They'll check in to make sure that they're doing the right things. Hey, babe, I just want to let you know I did the dishes. Or, hey, I vacuumed the floor, or I changed the oil in your car. And they're saying this so they can get a good boy type thing, right? And this is ridiculous. The woman's now thinking, well, first of all, the fact that you have to tell me you did the dishes or tell me you changed the oil, and now you're looking for something in return, we are now in a transactional relationship. You're not just doing it because out of kindness of your heart. I know, guys, you're thinking, well, Doug, yes, I am. I'm doing this because it's a kind act. But that's not the way it's being received. It's being received as if you're chasing her. You're chasing her attention and you're chasing her approval. And when you're chasing her approval, you become a beta. You become a needy person, right? This is totally different, guys, than just making sure your wife's happy or making sure she's good because you love her and you care for her. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking to you guys who are in a sexless marriage or in your marriage that just isn't working well for you. And the way you're trying to solve it is incorrect. It just doesn't work. I've been there myself, and literally thousands upon thousands of men that I've talked to have been there also. Really what you're doing is you're going into the solution mode of being a nice guy, and you're also checking in to see how she's feeling. So you're wanting to know, like, look, am I doing the right things to course correct my marriage? And you're doing that by using her as your litmus test. And that's not the way to do it. In our activation method for relationships, which is our flagship program, which teaches you how to save your marriage without talking about it. And the reason that works so well is the power goes within inside of you. We teach men a thing we call the triad of connection. In order to have this connection that we all want in our marriages, the one I have in my marriage currently, you need three things, right? You need to have a clean slate. And what that means is you have to stop looking at the past, whether your wife's cheated, whether you've cheated, or constant complaints. You need to wipe that slate completely clean, right? So there's no mud in the glass. And so also you're not constantly digging up the same arguments over and over again. I mean, look at this. I remember way back in my marriage, it seemed that my wife would bring up the same problem, the same issue time and time again. And I would think that we resolved it, right? But it would come up a month or 6 months even later. And if that's happening to you, you need to wipe the slate clean so you don't have to deal with those issues anymore and you can move forward rather than looking in the rearview mirror of your marriage. Now, also, you need to use something we call the hidden motives technique. I've done a ton of podcasts on this. You can look through the archives. I think at this point we have over 870 podcasts or so. So there's a lot of material on there, but you need this methodology. You need to master it, right? So you can actually have good communication with your wife. As men, we're never taught how to communicate with women. Women communicate differently than men, right? And you as a communicator, your job is to get your message to land on the other person. So if you're presenting from stage, if you're doing sales, if you're talking to your staff, you may change the tonality of your voice. You may change the way you say something so somebody else can understand you better. Well, the hidden motives technique is just this. It's just, as a man, how to communicate to women so they feel seen and heard, right? And then you also need to do what's called the live like a king system. We use that to make sure that all these foundations stay in place and that you eliminate needing this external validation. The validation comes from yourself. Hey guys, I wanted to interrupt this episode because it's dawned on me that many of you guys aren't aware that we actually have a book on how to save your marriage without talking about it. Now, thousands of men have read it, they've reviewed it, and I want to give you the opportunity to do the same. If you're interested in grabbing it, it's a short read, but it's helped a lot of men just like you. And maybe you're not interested in the activation method yet, but this is a small entry point that can really turn things around for you. Go over on Amazon. We have it priced as cheap as Amazon will let us. And that way you have a resource that you can use right now to start getting some results in your marriage. Now let's get back to the episode. You see, when you're chasing your wife around, really what you're saying to her is, I need your approval. Am I being a good husband? Am I being a good boy? Right? You're saying that time and time again when you're following her around the house, you're chasing her, you're sending her tons of text messages. Now, I'm not talking, if you're sexting, this is a different story. You're in a better place. But if you're sending her text messages to check in, to see how she's doing, to check in to see where she is, or anything like that, you're telling her that you require her validation that you're a good man, that you're a good husband, that you're a good father. And that, guys, is just not sexy. It just isn't. So you need to start looking for that power within. If you're a businessman and you're interested in learning how to do this at the core level, then I invite you to read in the description. We'll have a link there to look into the activation method for relationships and do it today. Take decisive action. Do it today and just look into it and see if it's the right fit. And it may not be, right? A lot of men that I talk to will listen to this podcast for a year or 3 years. But I will tell you the one thing that everyone, 100% of them say to me is, I should have done this earlier, Doug. I should have joined earlier. And the reason being is you're getting a proven methodology, a proven set of skills that you can now use. And now you don't have to chase your wife, right? You want to be magnetic to her. You want her to come to you naturally. And that's probably what happened when you first started dating, right? She was curious about what you're up to. She wanted to spend time with you. She wanted to be in your presence because you were an amazing man. She saw the powerful man inside of you. And women tell me that all the time. One of their biggest frustrations is they can see the man that you could be, the man that they know is inside, and they get hurt, angry, and frustrated because you're not showing up like that. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I've never met a perfect person, but they want to know that you're striving to be that man. They want to know that you are working on being that man. That's why some guys, as soon as they join the activation method, their marriage completely changes, right? And it changes because now all of a sudden their wife's like, "What? Wait a minute. You're doing something. You're taking action. Like you don't normally do this. You talk about going to the gym, or you talk about the stuff you're going to fix in the house, or you talk about how you're going to be a better man, but you don't actually do it. And now you're taking massive action, as I always talk about. That is sexy to a woman. Your wife is dying for you to take this massive action, whatever it may be. Now, if you don't join the powerful man, no worries, right? It won't change my life if you do, but I guarantee it'll change yours. But do something else, right? Just do something that's going to push the needle. And that something can be stopping chasing your wife, stopping that needy, anxious energy. She can feel it. Like I was talking to this man's woman who described him as having these tentacles all around her. She was saying, like, oh, I'm in the kitchen. I can feel him as soon as he walks in the door. I can feel his energy. Like he's trying to search for what my feelings are. And that's not what she wants. She wants a man. Those are her exact words. Now, this guy is course corrected and he is the man, right? But he is still the same human. He just changed his way of being. He just changed his needy energy. And as soon as he did that, she started becoming attractive to him, where he walks in the door and she comes to greet him because she's excited to see him. That's totally different. That's a completely different marriage, right? The beginning, marriage A, guy comes in the door. Again, wife describes it like tentacles all around her, and she's repelled. She wants nothing to do with him. She goes to a different room. If he comes in that room, she gets up and leaves to another room. It's completely repulsive to a woman. Now he course corrects, right? And now he's finding the power within himself, which he feels a lot better. He's being the man he always knew was inside him. He just couldn't activate it. That's why it's called the activation method, right? The activation method. This guy also reset his alpha, right? We have a program called the Alpha Reset, and he goes through that. Now he's having more fun with his own personal life. He's doing things that he enjoys. And guess what? He walks in the door now, and his wife is attracted to him. If he goes in the living room, she comes to the living room because she wants to be with him. If he gets up and he goes to the bedroom, well, she 9 times out of 10 is going to get up and go to the bedroom with him. And it's not because she's a dog or anything like that. She's just attracted to him. It's attraction. It's a law of polarity. And when you're in this needy energy, like he was originally, that repulses, right? That's like having the same magnetism, and you try to put two magnets together that have the same polarization, they repel. You can't get those magnets to attach. But when you flip one of those magnets, it's hard to get them apart, right? And the reason being is because of that magnetism, that polarity that's there. And when a man has needy energy, that's a very feminine energy, right? We all have needy energy, but when you're consistently like that, that's a feminine energy. And if your wife is naturally feminine, which she is, or you wouldn't be listening to the show, then you guys aren't going to have that polarity and you're going to repel her. And the more you chase her, the farther she's going to want to go away, to the point where she doesn't want you around. And that's when guys will tell me like, man, I'm going on a business trip. My wife can't wait for me to go. Fast forward about 6 months or so, going through the program, doing the work, whatever it takes. Now, the wife doesn't want him to go on the business trip, or she wants to go along. And again, they've gone back to dating, or usually what guys will tell me is it's better than it's ever been. And one of the things that they've stopped doing is chasing their wives. So guys, I'm going to encourage you to look at how you're doing it. Maybe you're not physically chasing your wife, but do you follow her around? Are you texting her all the time to check in, to see how she's doing, to calibrate or gauge her emotional response? Is it going to be a good night, a bad night? Is there an opportunity for sex? And you're going out there and you're reaching, kind of just testing the waters a little bit to see how she's feeling. If you're doing that, she knows. You're being in a needy energy. I want you to go ahead and turn that power inside of yourself. Get back to activated. That's the baseline for us at the Powerful Man, is activated. Get back to activated, where therefore you can do things that you want to do. Fill your cup. Live your best life. I always say, guys, life is too short for average. If you're in an average marriage or below, if you're in an average life or below, right? You're average business or below. You're not living the life you were meant to be, not living the life that your creator wanted you to have, right? You need to activate, step in and step out. And what I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. So, what are you going to do today to change your life around so you can stop being average and start living the life you're meant to be? I'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.